Hey scrappers, if you're looking to figure out what materials you should sell this week or hold this week, now is the time to do it. Our weekly report is going to give you that information, up-to-date market news, pricing. Let's get right into it and we'll talk about it inside.
Hey scrappers, Tom here. It is November 9th, but we had a big election yesterday, so it's going to be interesting to see how some of those things pan out and see how they affect the scrap markets. And what I want to start talking about right off the bat is the nickel markets and how they're going to affect the scrap markets, especially in the coming years. So I wrote in my report for a little while talking about alternatives to lithium ion batteries in this new EV market. And when I see different administrations talking about things, I would like to see how it's then going to reverberate and go into the industry. So then I look at the car manufacturers. So I look at the car manufacturers, and a lot of them are saying that they want 90% of their fleets to be electric vehicles by 2040. So what does that mean for the scrap market? Well, they're going to need more metals. That's one of the reasons you've seen some of the lead battery prices dipping down over the years. I don't remember the amount of years ago, let's say 5 years ago in 2017, 2018, we were selling batteries for 30, 35, 45, 50 cents per pound because there was a high demand. They were continuing to take the old lead acid batteries and refine them and then make them into new lead acid batteries. And then they use those in cell phone tower sites. And those batteries were used for storage in the initial round of solar that was going out there. Now, as lithium ion has proved to be more energy holding, I don't know how it can hold more energy, the lithium can, for a longer period of time, they've moved away and gone towards lithium. But as we've seen lithium prices increase, and that's not something we talk about often, but as lithium prices have increased over the last couple of years, really 2021, 2022, they are starting to look for other ways to be able to get metals that are going to help, and nickel is going to be one of them. Now, it's interesting because I've talked about nickel over the last few months and how I think that the nickel prices are a little funny right now compared to the stainless steel prices. Stainless steel is made of iron and nickel and chromium and a couple of other things, but the scrap stainless prices for 303, 304 is super low right now. We're seeing reported prices in the 20-25 cent range. We have a new website coming out in the coming weeks. We're uploading it and testing it on our new servers right now, so you'll see it, and it'll make it way easier for you to not only be able to report your prices, whether you're on the desktop or on the version on your phones other than the app, like through the browser. Really easy to report prices and track a lot of different commodities that are going on there. But the stainless prices really haven't caught up. Now, I know a lot of scrap yards throughout the country that are piling up their stainless steel. And I don't mean like 40,000 pounds. I mean like hundreds of thousands of pounds, if not millions of pounds, in prepared areas because the prices have become so decreased compared to where they should be. So I'm really paying close attention to the nickel prices. I think that they're severely depressed. And if you want to save anything, stainless steel at a 25-cent level, probably not a bad thing. Is probably not a bad thing to save. So just keep that in mind. Now, last Friday, for our members-only YouTube channel, we had an announcement coming out talking about copper prices, and they went up 26 cents in one day. Now, in the announcement, I told them that, it's probably a good way to try to negotiate with your scrapyard, but don't be surprised to see a decrease coming. And on Monday, we saw a decrease of about 7 or 8 cents per pound on the copper market. Now, on election day, we saw the market go up 9 cents, and today's market has fluctuated a little bit, but we're now seeing copper prices at near 3-month highs. And why is that happening? The Chinese had a massive lockdown on their people, which was affecting all types of labor and all types of production in many of their manufacturing facilities. A company that makes the iPhones was talking about how few people were coming into work because Chinese law said that they have a COVID-0 policy. And that was allowing people to not work, and that decreased the demand for some copper. But as the Chinese said last Friday, they were going to start to open back up, and that was one of the reasons we saw a really big copper jump. But the main reason that I've read about is that they're finally talking about eliminating their COVID-0 policy. And again, I'm not looking to talk about COVID, but I know that it's affecting the copper prices, and that's why we saw some of the uptick. So is there a chance that we approach $4 copper again after being in that 330 to 365 trading range? Yeah, there is. There could be a couple of run-ups, but there's a lot of other things that are really going to bear down on the market right now. Diesel prices, for instance, if you haven't read in the news, diesel prices continue to be going up even as gas prices are kind of leveling off, even though they're going to be going up as well because you can only release so much oil at a time. Diesel prices we're having a problem with, and diesel markets are really going to see a big crunch. And just go on the road and look at how many of these trucks are on the road driving. My trucks are sucking up 200-300 gallons a week sometimes when they're driving a lot, and that's going to really have a big impact on the scrap markets, because if it's more expensive to move materials, then it's going to be less pricing, or a lower pricing, because you have to offset it somewhere. So that's why we've seen the steel prices go down now about 4 or 5 weeks in a row, with light iron prices averaging $100 to $120. I read some comments on YouTube about some individuals out in Arizona that were getting rid of their light iron for either nothing or $20 per ton. And while that shouldn't be happening, if you're in kind of barren areas and it's more expensive to move stuff, unfortunately, it shouldn't be a surprise. One of my comments that I regularly make to people is that steel leads to non-ferrous. An air conditioner might have 50% steel, but you also have an aluminum copper rad, electric motor, etc. So those are things to be able to keep in mind. And if you're looking for extra information, our YouTube members are getting that every single time we see some news announcements coming out. We're spitting it out to them, and we'll follow up with you, a week or two later. But sometimes you might want that information, especially if you're holding on to materials. So where do I see these markets going post-election? Well, not everything's been sorted out, but I do expect to start to see less laws being passed in the next couple of years, and hopefully a little bit of a reopening of the oil sector in the United States, which will help to decrease oil and other fuel prices, and then that will help increase the scrap markets. Aluminums continue to be depressed. Stainless steel markets we talked about. Yellow brass has gone up. We've seen some yellow brass numbers in the $1.90 to $2.05 range. Really strong prices. But moving forward, there's going to be a few items that are just going to be really kind of poo-poo. Lead acid batteries, steel for the rest of this year, iron prices for the rest of this year. So those we're looking at. We did start to see a little bit of a push towards catalytic converter upticks with some of those prices for OEMs nationally approaching $170 per cat, which is something we haven't seen in a few months. So at least those markets are creeping up. You can get a quote from rrcats.com and free shipping also. So we are seeing some positive things out there, but we're seeing some negative things at the same time. And ultimately, they'll all blend together, and we really need to get through the holiday season and into the first quarter of next year to see how things kind of flatten themselves out and figure out what's going on. So be interesting to see what happens with some of these election cycles, see how the laws start to change come the new Congress in January, see what moves forward from there, and we'll pay close attention to that and let you know. Comment below with any of your questions or ideas, and we'll try to make more videos to answer them. And until next week, scrappers, I'll scrap you later.
Thanks for checking out this scrap video. For more exclusive scrap video content, please become a YouTube member of our channel today. Thank you, and I'll scrap you later.